This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Welcome to Mapping 101 Thursdays with Dear Paul, live from Dasmania City. Good evening everyone, and this is your one and only Dear Paul speaking. Of course, I have to summarize on what's happened last week. If you can remember that there's an ongoing overhaul, but due to time constraints, plus there are some possibilities that there would be like late or delayed telecast, but sadly I have to do some sort of replay edition of the quarter, or should I say, actually you can find it at the description on the sideways or below of your FB watch or YouTube screen. And since there would be some sort of, time constraints, that I have to continue editing by Yani 20 hours, albeit of the weekly edition of QuarterLifeBLISS, if I could say it properly. Shout out to Coach Yani. And yes, of course, before I play with the video or pre-recorded portion that happened last week, say that the overhaul of the public utility vehicle was well, if you can see the screen, which is said to be shown on the right hand corner of the screen, and I hope that everyone would have some sort of participation. Yes, of course, this is also simulcasted on YouTube Live, though comments will not be shown simultaneously. New stickers will be shown. And say that the tape edit last week is the actual replay. Of course, if you have to recall on the warning that got popped up, actually, here's the update. Upon series of investigations, you know what? If you move any object or element like the nodes, ways, or areas that exceeds 200 meters, I'll pop it up on the right hand corner of the screen. Yes, of course, let me post this for a while so that I could discuss it with you more. Actually, there's a high risk of error if you move it without motion, so you have to move it with care larger distance of exceeding 200 meter or more than 20 elements could often be of our concern as a mapper. This is what happened when I have discovered a bug actually on the OSMAND on iOS with a specific versions that got affected as well. I'm not 100% sure of what could it be the extent of this issue that needs to be resolved. Say, let me play this one. A single or multiple element that is being moved on a greater distance would cause an error already, so we have to take care if we're going to move any element. For further overview of the editing, let me remove the ticker below or the banner itself, and let's have an overview. Say for example, if we're going to map it out, the tactile paving and the wheelchair, for accessibility's sake, kindly do this mapping if you're certain about the accessibility features. Of course, I'll show it to you on the full screen. Timestamp might be hidden. Say if we're going to, heading towards the editing of a certain accessibility features, also with the overhaul of the bicycle lane. Of course, special thanks to the city government of Makati for giving us the latest update on the bicycle lane, as well as the Makea or Masaya rather, Mike Alpha Charlie Echo Alpha. A bit of a reminder during the editing, we have to practice 5S discipline. Special thanks also to the OpenStreetMap Philippines, Maxar Technologies for giving us the latest data and imagery. All of these are attributed and licensed under the Creative Commons for OpenStreetMap contributors. Share alike license likewise. And here's one thing. If there would be a sidewalk with the railings, it is included at the overhaul. Say for example that let me remind you a bit with regards to the anti-jaywalking ordinance. If there is a railing on a sidewalk, it is designed to separate pedestrians and motor vehicular traffic, including the motorcycles, from all sorts of encroachment or intrusion or anything that would compromise the safety and well-being of all our dear pedestrians. and as such, foot equals no could be tagged for the highway itself, especially if it's marked as a no jaywalking zone, but you have to use it with caution, as some of the mappers might be disagree with what I have discussing. Next up, we have to create a way segment. Use the prescribed tagging with the highway equals footway, footway equals sidewalk, tactile paving if it's available in your city or municipality, and also the wheelchair. Likewise, bicycle lanes are there already for some reason. It is for the safety sake of our cyclists, and the rightmost lane serve use at the most time. What I'm having, or what I'm going to share with you, is that everything that would cause some sort of issues on the mapping, you know what it means. We have to be careful not to compromise the integrity of the data. And well, it's a part 2 of the edit that I have done last week. Of course, I have received a message from our mapper friend that change set 58178557. Say for example that if you're interested in knowing what's happening on the recorded or pre-recorded version of the mapping that I have made, so don't forget to tune in to Mapping 101 Thursdays every Thursday at 1900 hours, 7 p.m. Philippine Standard Time. Say for example that erroneous or information that erroneous information or any information that would contain sensitive information, I'll be tackled in further episodes. Well, of course, bicycle lanes would be on the rightmost lane. And say that as far as I have done, 3 inner lanes of traffic from lane number 1, which is usually the median, until the lane number 3 are for multi-purpose vehicular traffic, except on the lane number 3, whereas It goes for the bus only in most cases. Lane number 4, which is close to the sidewalk, got assigned for bicycles only. Then, of course, what I have discovered lately is that there's something that needs to be reviewed on the particular chainset 58178557 over 2 years ago, 2018, whereas there are some sort of personally identifiable information that it doesn't, or should I say it was not supposed to be disclosed, but it would be on episode 19 already. Episode 17 would mean for the storytelling already, the sit-in version of the Mapping 101 Tuesdays that I'm going to, what's happening here on the Mapping 101 stuff. Say for example that what would going to happen is that there are some sort of reviews that I need going back and forth, and with the use of the satellite imagery, and of course there are sections that needs to be split into 2+2 due to the traffic island separator, just to avoid all sorts of incidents that may compromise the traffic flow. Having said that, we have existing 4 lanes on the next part. If you have noticed that I have to, post the recording due to certain issues that needs to be solved. And this is what happens. As we're going to select these 4 lanes of traffic, we have to be careful on cutting those way segments, and bus routes have to be reviewed as well. So with the bicycle lanes, and here are the particular bus routes. Metro Express P2P buses have to avoid the right side of this split by the traffic island separator for the safety sake and the time sake. And this is what happens. The split has been commenced. And of course, we have to be careful on what we're going to map. And as far as I'm concerned, there are some sort of instances whereas the satellite imagery goes into, blurry or sometimes get into poor quality for the particular reason, and most GPS or GLONASS, or collectively known as the GNSS Global Navigation Satellite System, have some sort of limitations when it comes to navigating those highways with tall buildings on the side, as the line of sight has to be cleared out. BGC and Metro Express P2P buses have to be at this separated lane. The limited pedestrian crossing could be used only for the I have lots of words already. But through thorough reviewing, there would be always error-free editing, but this is not always 100%. On the next week, I have to explain further on why there would be some sort of errors in the change set comment that all of the sudden got blank, and it is originally be a two-part thing but got extended for the next week. The sit-in vlog for the explanation on what happened on the OpenStreetMap or the Java OpenStreetMap editor for the first time it ever happens. And so, what could I do to avoid some sort of fatal mistakes when it comes to edits and more? But right now, there are some sort of difficulties that I'm facing right now, being a student and mapper at the same time. Surrenders to handle such schedules than the time on what I need. And so, on what's happening right now, back and forth editing for the review process, And as always, I'm very thankful for the Mapping 101 Thursdays. Me alone as a mapper with special needs. This is always the reason on why I do stream, so that everyone could be educated on what could it be the correct practices. And that being said, includes with the recovery of the relation, which is indicated on the screen, 833 relation 828-7587, formerly used as a depreciated turn restriction, or turn prohibition rather, and then converted already into the bicycle route, or same restriction, but I'll rather use the only straight on, just to make sure that those from the inner lanes of traffic could not swerve in any manner, nor do any sort of illegal turns that could cost you money and time and resources. Having said that, as if I have to explain this to you over and over, that the turn restrictions may be placed if necessary, since we're heading into this new normal, better normal way of driving. Licenses got extended to those who are deserved to have that premium license. 5 years would be the regular one, and say for example, if you have a 0 violations committed, then as far as I'm concerned, you could grant, or you could be granted into the 10-year license. On what I have to do is to tag the bicycle lanes as this one, so with the bus lane and this is very important, access lanes. Most of the mappers are not aware about this, and as such, if there would be some sort of, sad reality for all of us, that most of the drivers are either disobeying the traffic signs or markings. So with the bicycle lanes that are supposed to be for the cyclist use only, and as a result, there are needless accidents that could be prevented ever again. having said that, safety culture has to begin from us within. And you know what? On the reasons on why I have to map this sidewalk separately from the rest of the vehicle traffic is that safety is at the utmost concern. Being a civil engineering student myself, that what I have learned from the CE Laws Contracts and Ethics class is that as far as I'm concerned, we should avoid practicing the profession if it's not yet duly licensed. We can only practice our profession once we are duly licensed by the Professional Regulations Commission. And having said that, let's remember that we have to, take care of ourselves, take care of our future. This is what all we need in these trying times. Of course, on mapping the median, we have to specify the height and the material that we are using. Say the bollard that is being installed in the middle of the four lanes of traffic, and before the median there's a safety feature already called the rumble strip, that every time you pass by them you feel more vibrations, not only us but also the motor vehicles with the rumbling sound that would be more like of the shaking of our body once we become nervous. And of course, as if we're going to pass through the rumble strip, always remember to keep calm, just to avoid further accidents. Let me post that for a while. Once again, for those who are tuning in right now to Mapping 101 Thursdays, it's either 4 or more elements by a greater distance exceeding 200 meters. It's a warning prompt already by the Java OpenStreetMap editor that we should move it with caution. Otherwise, there would be a huge errors once it gets published. Let me resume it. Of course, we have to take these warnings very seriously so that we could have to avoid such erratic data input and output, as some sort of alteration could make us liable already. Of course, apologies for some sort of technical glitches. Maybe you have realized that it pops it up unexpectedly. Oops. Let me fast forward this one in order to avoid some sort of copyright strikes. Let me say that if we're going to move anything or do anything that should be the scope of the editing, is that if you have noticed these tags, well, I have selected this portion. Of course, it's a red flag already for all pedestrians, especially in Makati City CBD. And we have to avoid all sorts of jaywalking. And I have expanded this into 5 lanes. A bit of a reminder, if we're going to increase into 5 lanes, we have to be careful on the tagging. Well, this one is the leftmost lane, the lane number 1. This one is lane number 2, and this bank is the lane number 3. And the designated is for the bus lane, which is at lane number 4, and the lane number 5 is the bicycle lane, if in case there are some instances of a turning lane. Let me resume this one. Bicycle lanes, and of course access lanes, and we have to copy and paste it. Control Shift V, also Control Shift V, and we have to double check it right away. And as you know, there's also a pedestrian tunnel. On what I have to remind you is that the bridge and the tunnel are two different terms for the elevation. Say for this table, it is at the ground, or should I say, this level is the ground supposedly, and the and above the microphone could be the bridge, and the one which is invisible could be the tunnel. That's what I'm going to emphasize, guys. Of course, we have to be very careful on tagging those access lanes so that we could avoid some sort of pitfalls for the citation. Once the city government of Makati began the intensive enforcement, and once caught misbehaving, then you could get fined already. In most cases, it would be thousands of pesos of fines, or in other words, there would be a high chance of community service. So I have to stop this one for the meantime because we're going to end this very early so that we could conserve on the StreamYard's free data plan. Thank you very much for watching Mapping 101 Thursdays. Next week could be more like of, you know, the explanation on what happened, why there is something went wrong while I have published and then closed with the empty change set. And this has been the Mapping 101 Thursdays. Good night, everyone. Have a sweet dreams. Take care, everybody. And of course, please be reminded that the whole programming of DP24 GTV is copyrighted. Any unauthorized reproduction or distribution of the whole or any part is strictly prohibited without the permission from DP24 India. Of course, for those who have tuned in last Tuesday, thank you so very much to all of you guys who have greeted me a happy birthday. And yes, of course, I'll be announcing more of the updates. So don't forget to tune in to Mapping 101 Thursdays next week for another live edition. And by the way, if in case you're wondering why the Easy Filipino is not airing last Tuesday, it's because I have to postpone the programming until further notice. Tomorrow is the Dear Paul in Focus, and on Saturday, Dear Paul on Reflections. I'll make it an appointment that the broadcast for both Dear Paul in Focus, DP in Focus, and Dear Paul on Reflections, DP on Reflections could be either aired as replay on DP24 Radio. Mapping 101 Thursdays could stay on here on this live stream. And of course, thank you so very much. Good night, everyone. Be safe, be well, stay sane. Of course, you are loved. Coach Yani's QuarterLifeBLISS is up next. a bit of reminder. The next programming could not be found on the YouTube. Kindly tune in to FB Watch in order to continue watching on DP24 FB page. Special thanks to OpenStreetMap Philippines for making this Mapping 101 Thursdays supportive. Also, the Maxar Technologies Mental Health Awareness.